Hello everyone, this is Aeroica, and thanks for stopping by for another video. In this episode, I'm going to profile the new hero Hansuke Undying, an armored undead warrior with an apparent allergy to stray arrows. Cursed to an eternal unlife and protector of the weak, let's see if this guy gets to call your hero roster home. My Hansuke is level 70 and is fully ascended. At first glance, this guy looks somewhat like an undead version of Takumi, with just some different armor. I do have to say I like this guy's skull graphic, and I'm curious just how this guy managed to get his head adorned with an arrow. The mystery remains. If we click on the question mark, you'll see that Hansuke is available only in the heroic portal, and thus will add yet another hero to the portal system loot table. However, at the time of this introduction, there are 3 event dungeons which carry his tokens and include medium, hard, and very hard versions. Take note that there is no easy mode dungeon for this event, so there's no need to put in a ticket for support. Remember that obtaining him from the heroic portal will provide him to you as a 3-star hero, and you can collect your tokens for star upgrades from there. If we click on the Stats tab, I'll first scroll down so you can look at the numerical statistics. You can pause the video if you would like to take a closer look at what he has to offer. I would however like to point out that he does have very little spirit damage resistance, and we would expect that being an undead hero. Hansuke is a nature hero, and thus he has the standard 30% damage buff towards water enemies and negative 25% towards fire enemies. Looking at his trait, his first trait is called Master of Combat, which makes his attacks immune from being dodged or missed. This is really an excellent trait, especially from a PvP standpoint, where attacks with status components can make your heroes dizzy and cause them to miss subsequent attacks for a few rounds. His next trait is called Lifeless, which makes him immune to both poison and disease. The next trait is called Kenjutsu, which provides him a full-time 25% chance to dodge any single target attack. This is really nice, and I would like to discuss this in conjunction with the next trait called Honor Guard, which causes Hansuke to take damage from a single target death blow attack originally intended for another hero in your party. Since the word any is used in the description of the Kenjutsu trait, it seems reasonable to assume that the 25% chance to dodge will be in effect for this trait as well. Thus, it is possible that a death blow attack toward another hero, and with the intervention from Hansuke, could actually prevent all damage from that strike. His last trait is called Undying Loyalty and is a form of self-resurrection. If Hansuke is killed during his Honor Guard trait, he will resurrect on the next turn with both an attack and a defensive buff. It is really nice that this trait is not just a suicide move and that he is still be able to be viable in your battle. The delay in resurrection is also good in that it may give your healer time to heal him back up if needed. If we move to the Abilities tab, we'll see his basic attack. His first ability is called Vigilance and is a form of Honor Guard in that the incoming attack does not have to be a death blow for the defense to occur, but rather based on a percentage of chance. Vigilance places Hansuke in a defensive stance and gives him, at level 70, a 46% chance to intervene on an attack intended for an ally hero. Additionally, it adds 46% chance to counter that attack. So while the trait version of this depends on the incoming attack being a death blow, this ability only relies on the percentage chance and will work regardless of how much damage the incoming attack will do. His second ability is called Exposed Weakness, which is an armor-piercing attack that does 1967 base damage and will purge any active taunt. These types of abilities are always useful if you're trying to DPS focus an enemy and those pesky tanks try to taunt you right off of them. His third ability is called Wind of Consequences, and sounds like what happens after eating too much Taco Bell, but like a lot of things, so worth it. Anyway, this ability will attack an enemy for 1324 base damage and will heal the lowest health ally by 25%. This could be very useful even in a PvP setting, as this ability only has a 5-turn cooldown, and with PvP battles becoming longer in duration, and with challenge mode dungeons being more difficult than even some of the milestone bosses, it has the potential to keep some of your more fragile heroes in play. Hansuke's first extension requirements are 45 Nature Evos, 18 Nature Evo Monarchs, 5 Fire Evos, and 2 Bushido Evos. Meeting these requirements will give you the Exposed Weakness ability, along with the Kenjutsu and Honor Guard traits. Hansuke's second ascension requirements are 40 Water Evos, 32 Nature Evo Monarchs, 4 Mind's Eye Evos, and 2 Infinity Evos. Meeting this second ascension requirement will give you the Wind of Consequences ability and the Undying Loyalty trait. After using Hansuke in various situations, I see both pros and cons for how viable this hero can be. When looking at his abilities, the first one, Vigilance, is not technically an attack and is more of a defensive maneuver. It does not immediately deal damage and is at best an opportunity to both prevent and deal damage. While sometimes this can produce the desired result, because it is left to chance, it makes true down-to-the-wire critical moves less direct. His other two abilities, however, are damage dealing and have only a 5-turn cooldown, which makes them fairly available and, with his Master of Combat trait to never miss or be dodged, successful as well. Hansuke's Exposed Weakness ability with its taunt removal component certainly has solid application in both campaign dungeons and PvP, while his Wind of Consequence attack does damage and heals your most damaged hero as well. Taking into consideration the 5-turn cooldown, these attacks will frequently be at the ready when you need to use them, but be ready to do 4 turns of nothing more than a basic attack because the only ability that is powered when entering the dungeon, PvP or otherwise, is the Vigilance ability. You will need to wait 4 more turns before any real damage is done, as even his counter move is a basic attack. This, in my opinion, makes him less than desirable and puts a lot of pressure on your other allies. This setup brings your effective DPS to 3, and that's if you didn't bring a healer. Additionally, it makes any critical attacks painful. From a PvP standpoint, Hansuke is difficult to have in your party. While at face value I can certainly hypothesize that his protection of other allies would be desirable and his healing the lowest member preferred, but his DPS feels subpar. While he is ranked as a normal speed hero, he feels like a slow hero without the benefit of buffing. I will say that his immunity to poison and disease is excellent and does come in handy for attacks based on these two afflictions, however it does not counter what feels like lagging DPS. Overall, Hansuke can best be described as painfully balanced. His 2 main attacks are decent and they come with some beneficial subcomponent measures which can lend to your party's success, but they do not instill the confidence that you might have with Tsumi, where you know that when he attacks, it's going to hurt your opponent. That being said, Tsumi doesn't have the ability to intervene and take the damage for a teammate, nor does he have the ability to heal, so that has to be accounted for when we compare these two together. At this point, I would say that Hansuke will benefit those who need another hero to push up another floor in the Tower of Ponage, and floor fodder seems to be a fitting role. As I said earlier, the fact that his primary attacking seems to be his basic attack, you may get the impression that you're taking longer in dungeons or are not as fruitful in a PvP match. I make this disclaimer though, I do not have my Hansuke at a 6-star level, but even in my wildest dream, I can't imagine it gets much better. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you found the video informative. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing, and if you have any thoughts on this guy yourself, please feel free to leave a comment below. I try to respond to everybody that takes the time to do so. If you have a Twitter account, please follow me on Twitter or on Instagram, and please don't forget to share these videos with people if you know that they also play the game and you think they'd find it informative. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you at the next video.